All right, here you go. We're going to be doing some practice problems before the quiz for inverse trig for college algebra. So if you're watching this, it's probably because I'm out and there's a sub in, but you know, good for you for watching this video because this is pretty much exactly like the quiz. So here we go. We're going to call this triangle ABC. And so we'll say that's A, this is B, and that's C. And they're going to say, you know, something like, well, suppose A, side A, is equal to, I don't know, let's say 10, and side C, which is the hypotenuse, is going to be something like, I don't know, it's got to be bigger than 10. Let's say 13. Okay? And they're going to pretty much ask you to solve the rest of the triangle. Okay? So the first thing is find the length of side B. So I think the only way I would know to do that would be to use the Pythagorean theorem. Okay, so 10 squared plus B squared equals 13 squared. All right? So B squared is equal to 13 squared minus 10 squared. Right? You bring in the scientific calculator. And it's firing up. I have 35 days left on my free trial. All right, you bring this over here. We're going to need to make it a little smaller. There we go. All right, so you do 13 squared minus 10 squared. Then you take the square root of the answer. And you get 8.307. So you write in B equals 8.307. Okay, if you're given two sides, you find the third one using the Pythagorean theorem. Okay, then they're going to ask you for the measure of angle A. Okay, well, if I wanted, you know, the measure of this angle, say I just call this A, right? Okay, I'm going to use the information that I'm given in the statement of the question, right? Don't depend on B. Because what if you got B wrong? You know, you wouldn't want to get A wrong because you got B wrong as well. All right, so we know that sine of A is equal to 10 over 13. Sine of A equals 10 divided by 13, meaning that A is inverse sine of 10 over 13. Okay, again, you bring back a calculator. There it is. And this is inverse sine, excuse me, of 10 divided by 13. And you get 50.285 degrees. Remember, your calculator needs to be in degree mode. What was that? 50.285. All right, I would expect the next thing is find the measure of angle B. Exactly. Okay, so that's going to be this one. And well, you could use arc cosine of 10 over 13. I'll do that. I'll say cosine of B equals 10 over 13. Therefore, B is inverse cosine of 10/13. Right, and so this is going to be inverse cosine of 10 divided by 13. That's 39.715. But I'll also say that you could have done this by saying, you know, 90 plus 50.285 plus B equals 180. Therefore, B equals 180 minus 90 minus 50.285. And you would have ended up with 39.715 either way. And I've just realized that you can't see any of this. It's behind the calculator. Whoops. Yeah, it's just how it goes. Thanks for the help, everyone. And but there you go. That's something. That's pretty much the first few questions on the quiz. Is a solve this triangle, but in a scaffolded way where I'm just going to ask you all the questions I want to know the answer to.
How do you know when to use cosine, sine?
Okay, good question. So the question was, when are you using arc sine or inverse sine versus inverse cosine? Okay, so for A, this part that I was doing in red, okay, I was given 10 and 13 in the statement of the question. So that's the opposite and the hypotenuse. And so you think back to SOHCAHTOA, and you know that so opposite over hypotenuse is sine. So you start with sine of A is equal to 10 over 13. So that's why you would use inverse sine. Whereas for B, 10 is the adjacent. It's the one that's next to B. So I have adjacent and hypotenuse. That's ka. I'm going to use cosine. All right. And, all right, so I've got a couple more for us. All right. After the solve the triangle question, there's going to be a couple of like really typical inverse trig problems where you're given two sides and you're supposed to find an angle. All right. So this is actually going back to what you were asking just a second ago, 499. So I've got theta and I've got an opposite side leg. That's not the color I was reaching for. I'm sorry for pink. You've got an opposite side and an adjacent side. That's looks like TOA, so I'm going to use tangent. So I've got tangent of theta is equal to opposite divided by adjacent is 4 over 5, meaning that theta is inverse tangent of 4 over 5. Theta is the angle whose tangent is 4/5. So I go over here, and you do inverse tangent of 4 divided by 5. And there it is. And it's 38.65 or 0.660 degrees. Okay, another direct inverse trig question is here's the situation. You've got an angle, you've got an adjacent side, and you've got a hypotenuse, right? I probably should put that the right triangle. So if I've got an adjacent and a hypotenuse, that's going to be cosine. So I write down cosine of theta equals 20 divided by 26. Okay, meaning theta is inverse cosine of 20 over 26. Okay. Grab the calculator. And I'm going to do inverse cosine is second and cosine. 20 divided by 26. That's 39.715 degrees. Right? Yes, sir. Yeah, just to find how big is this angle? How many degrees is this angle? Yeah, that is the objective. And so, I see that, what I've written down here is just a sketch of the problem on the quiz. The instructions on the quiz say, find the measure of angle theta. All right, so I think the only thing we have left to do is the obtuse triangle. Oh, yep, here it is, on the back side. All right, here you go. Here's the obtuse triangle. Okay, this is definitely something that we're going to see on the quiz. Okay, and it's going to say triangle ABC is shown below. The measure of angle A is, let's make the measure of angle A 32 degrees. Side C has length, I gotta be smart about this. Let's make this 40 and side A has length 21. I think I'm going to actually make that 25 just to be safe. I don't want to get into the ambiguous case with the, yeah, it's, if you took pre-AP pre-cal last year, you would remember. It was kind of an ordeal. All right, I just want to make sure there's just one triangle that has these measurements. Okay, the first thing is you find the length of the altitude h. Okay, so first thing, find h. Okay, so my recommendation to find h is to reproduce the triangle on the left, where this is 32, this is 40, and this is h, right? Because this is the type of problem that we were doing all throughout last time and the time before, okay? So what I'm going to do is I've got an opposite and a hypotenuse. That's going to leave me needing to use sine. So sine of 32 degrees is equal to h divided by 40. Okay, so h is going to be 40 times the sine of 32 degrees. Right, that's 40 sine of 32. It's going to be 21.197. All right, next we're going to find the measure of angle C. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to reproduce the triangle on the right. I'm going to say, okay, I've got one of these right triangles. I've got 25. I just found that h was 21.197. And I'm looking for C. Well, if sine of C, I've got an opposite and a hypotenuse, is equal to 21.197 divided by 25, then C will be inverse sine of that. All right, so I've got the calculator. I'm going to take 21.197 divided by 25. Okay, and then I'm going to take inverse sine of that. I did it in the wrong order, but you can do inverse sine of the answer, which that's what 21.197 divided by 25 is. And I'll get 57.982. I'm just going to clear all this out. 57.982. See that I've got it written up here. All right, then the next thing they'll probably ask you to do is find the measure of angle B. And what I'm going to do, I just realized probably in the video I did this too. This is not smart the way I did it. I can just do 180 minus 32 minus the measure of angle C. Is that, yeah, measure of angle B. Yeah, that's definitely the thing to do. Forgive me for doing whatever else I've done. Oh, whoops. Find the measure of angle B, and that's going to equal 180 minus 32 minus 57.982. Now you go in and use the calculator for this as well. 180 minus 32 minus 57.982. 90.018. Okay, so this thing is barely an obtuse triangle. Well, whatever. Okay, figure must not be drawn to scale. Then the last thing they're going to ask you for is find the length of side B. Okay, that is the thing that the lesson today is going to help with. Okay, so I'm going to just kind of lasso this, make it a lot smaller, get it out of the way. All right. So what I'm going to say is that to find B, you're going to need to do it in two parts. You're going to need to kind of like split out these two triangles. And we're going to clear out the calculator. All right. So the first part will be, you know, okay, B1. The second part will be B2. Okay, we know that this is 32, and we know that that's 40. So cosine of 32 is equal to B1 divided by 40. Okay, so B1 is going to be 40 times cosine of 32 degrees. Okay. Then for B2, you're going to have to use one of the things you calculated. You could use the measure of angle C if you wanted. You could use the 25 and the H if you wanted to do that. Really, whatever you think. I think I'll use the measure of angle C and the 25. And I don't have room to fit that. So again, this is cosine. So cosine of 57,982 degrees is equal to B2 divided by 25. 25 cosine of 57.982. Okay. If I wanted to find the total length of B, which I guess I will highlight in yellow, I could find this by adding together B1 and B2. Okay, that's why I split the triangle in half. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of add these two things together to get B, and then I'll bring in a calculator to help me do that. All right, so I've got 40 times the cosine of 32 degrees. That's 33,922. And then I'm going to add to that 25 times the cosine of 57,982. And that will give me the full length. Okay, that'll be 47.177. And that is a dry run of the quiz. Okay, if you understood how to do these problems, you will understand how to do the questions on the quiz.